line. Are there any further apologies? Thank you. I note that there are no appointment of substitutes have been received. Are there any further substitute members? Thank you. And do any members have any interests to declare under the Members' Code of Conduct? Thank you.
Would being members or trying to set up other friends, parks, groups count as a matter of interest or not?
My gut feeling is no, but Gemma, do we have any?
I presume we're more members of friends of. Yeah.
I think it's safe to assume that every councillor in this room probably has some engagement with friends groups. So I don't think you can steer it to the point it would be a declaration of interest tonight. Agenda item 4 is public forum. So are there any members of the public in attendance who wish to speak and ask questions within the remit of this committee other than what's on the agenda for this evening? Thank you. So with that, we move on to agenda item 5, which is support for Friends of the Parks community groups. I now invite Jim Deacon and officers to deliver their presentation.
Thanks, Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Deacon. I'm the Director of Neighbourhoods. Tonight we have with us Daniel Files, who is our Parks Development Manager, and Mark Williams, who is our Acting Countryside Manager. They're going to give you a brief presentation on their service areas to provide background and context for how we work with friends groups in different parts of the borough. We also have Ian Doyle, our Waste and Street Scene Lead on Teams. Our public parks and countryside areas receive tremendous support from the friends groups, which we are extremely grateful. That is some tremendous work. It's great to have the opportunity to thank them for everything they do for Dudley and listen to their views. Although there is some good community partnerships work going on, there will be improvements that can be made in how we can support our volunteers. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Dan and Mark to do the presentation.
I'm going to just apologise. Seem to have the technology.
Got it on?
It's on.
Yeah.
Okay. Got a slight technical problem here.
Just while we wait for that, when the presentation is up and running, I can hear it doubling now. While the presentation is up and running, if we can keep questions until the end of the presentation. And one of the things I will ask this evening is that if any questions, challenges, recommendations, voices of support could be on the services that the council provide your group as a whole rather than individual casework items. I think that will help us get through the meeting in a productive way, but any individual items of casework, feel free to come and grab one of the officers or one of the councillors towards the end of the meeting and we'll happily help. Are we good? Okay, we'll continue.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Daniel Files and I'm the Parks Development Manager at the Council. I've been here for a number of years. Friends groups were established in the council about 20 years ago when we went through a programme called Livability. It was Livability in TYS at the time, and the council received £3.4 million from central government to invest in parks and open spaces. As part of that programme, we were encouraged by central government to engage with the community and park users, and at the time the council went down the route of developing friends groups. Friends groups take a number of different forms, from lobbying groups to groups that attract funding, to groups that organise community events and undertake maintenance on sites. Some groups come and go as they want to put items or projects in the park, but then other groups, like some like yourselves, who take on all of the above, do all the events, attract funding, help us to improve our parks, and are there to help the park as a whole, and not just one particular project. The benefit of friends groups is wide ranging, but some of the key points are: you're the most passionate people of our parks and open spaces, and I would say that you're more passionate than myself, because I get paid for it. You do it as a volunteer, and I am really grateful for that. You're our eyes and ears on the parks. You spot things long before we're notified from other members of the public or other officers. And as well, working together, we've made a real difference on our parks and open spaces over the past 20 years, and we've put a lot of investment in with your help. We're a team of 3 at the Parks Development team. There's myself and 2 other officers, and we don't just deal with friends groups. There are a number of other different aspects that we help manage for the council. One area is play areas, both investing in future maintenance and delivering improvements in our play areas. We also look at strategies and policies on how good management of open spaces can be, developing management plans for sites. We also support green flag accreditations where funding has come about and we need to get green flag to show that we've reached a particular standard. We'll take friends groups and the council through that process as well. We also organise and hire out all the recreation sports pitches and different sports activities on our parks and open spaces. And they can be from football, tennis, bowls. We also are keen to promote biodiversity in a lot of our sites as we move forward. It isn't all about cutting the grass. We want to increase some biodiversity on the margins and sometimes some of the larger areas of our sites where the parks can accommodate that. We also manage the council's allotment sites. We have 38 across the borough, although a lot of them are managed by associations. We work with those associations to help good governance and to promote good growing and community cohesion within those areas. We also have a number of grazing fields that we rent out, and they provide an annual income for the council. We have to make sure that they're all managed in appropriately. And one of the final areas that we manage is stray horses. And when I first came to the borough, I couldn't believe what stray horses were all about. But over the past few years, the council's taken a zero tolerance to that programme, and we've now got that fairly under control at the moment. And yeah, I think we do really well there. So this is just some facts and figures. We manage and maintain over 900 hectares of land. Just to put that into some perspective, that's 1,500 football pitches. We've got 38 formal parks, so we've got a lot of open spaces together with that as well. We've got 34 friends groups associated with our park sites and 28 allotment associations that help run our sites. And over the past 3 years, as a team, we've delivered £1.5 million of capital investment in our sites. And that's varied from play areas to sports improvements to pathway improvements. And a lot of that has been linked with yourselves to help us fund it and deliver it on the ground. So what support do we give to you as a team? We try and take you through your aspirations. We try and see what's realistic. Sometimes some of the ideas friends groups have got, they're great, but sometimes it's toning them down to make sure that they can fit in within a parks environment. We also look at avenues of funding that we can apply for, and a lot of that funding out there nowadays, the council can't do on its own back, and we rely on you guys to help us do that. And we've been very successful with that over the years. And then once we've got that funding, we then help deliver those projects on the ground through either my team or working with other teams within the council. We then deliver those projects and make sure that they're fit for the future. These are just some of the projects we've delivered over the past 12 months. This is a play area we've delivered. So a lot of the improvements we do is in conjunction with friends groups or tenants and residents associations. A lot of the funding we receive is through Innovate funding. We also receive funding from Heritage Lottery, and we're in the final stages of delivering the lottery project at Stevens Park Quarry Bank, which again I'm very proud of. And I think it's a testament to working with you that we're able to deliver this. And from my perspective, I can't do a lot of what I do on a daily basis without the help and support from yourselves.
So in Countryside Services, the friends groups developed in a different format and way to the ones on parks. They've evolved organically over time. They're not all going back to 20 years ago. Some are quite recent. I think the Friends of Leasos are probably one of the first friends groups in the borough. They started up around about 20 years ago, and Parks Development were involved in the formation of that group. Our groups help support the two wardens teams, the South team, which look after Leasos, Coombswood and Saltwells, and the North team that look after Wren's Nest, Fens Pools, Barrow Hill and Cotwell End. Those are the staffed nature reserves in the borough. There's a team of 11 wardens that look after those nature reserves. There's also several smaller local nature reserves around the borough that don't have any staff on and are just picked up by the teams when either issues get reported to us or we come across things on our routine site checks. A couple of the most important reserves, Wren's Nest National Nature Reserve, is world famous for geology. It's a real jewel in the crown for the area and a linchpin of the UNESCO Black Country Global Geopark. Saltwells, a recent National Nature Reserve, again, fantastic geological site with a large ancient woodland. The Leasos in the south in Halsowing, that's a Grade 1 historic landscape, world famous again for its history in garden design, as well as having a very rare collection of fungi, wax cap fungi. Our friends group support the parks. They help us with site management. They engage with the public, leading guided walks and other activities. They help with conservation and they also help with fundraising. And in return, we can help with training them, giving them skills, and they can help us by managing our green spaces. The social and health benefits to volunteers, again, for being outside, doing physical work on the nature reserves and the parks. They can bring a wider skill set into the team. A lot of people have retired and they've had jobs doing a whole range of different things that they can bring into their volunteering. They can help us create a base of people that can have training for the future. We've trained some of our Friends Group volunteers to use brush cutters so they can go out and safely help with site management on some of the sites that we don't manage to the extent that we'd like them to be. And they support us by running additional events. At the moment, most of the staffed sites are only running on a skeleton team. We've lost a couple of staff recently that haven't been replaced yet. So when a Friends Group can step up and run a guided walk or another activity for us, it's a real help. So we offer inclusive volunteer opportunities. Everyone's welcome to volunteer at all skill levels. And we can give them hands-on conservation work in habitat management, doing wildlife surveys and gaining skills and experience. Okay, and that's it.
Right. Thank you very much for that presentation. I'd like to invite any representatives of Friends Groups across the borough now and members of the Ernest Stevens Trust's Management Committee to share your views on that presentation and the council's engagement with you and your groups. But just as a reminder, what we're looking for here is ways that the council can improve, things that have worked, things that haven't. If it's ongoing issues that are individual issues, you know, that tree that's still not being cut down, that patch of grass that never gets cut, absolutely that's something that needs to be fixed. It can be fixed by approaching the relevant councillor officer towards the end of this meeting. The purpose of this is what can the council do to change how it acts, how it behaves and the service provides on the whole to improve our parks and our green spaces across the borough. So Julia at the back.
Hello, I'm from Friends of Woolscope Park. I just wanted to ask a question. I wanted to know how many Friends groups there were before COVID and how many there are now, because from my point of view, our Friends group's been going quite a long time, and it seems that the level of support has significantly deteriorated. There are a lot of benefits from having Friends groups, and there seems to have been an explosion in the number of Friends groups, which has put an extreme amount of pressure on parks development, and we don't seem to get the level of support that we used to. I think that parks development feels underfunded when we deal with them. So I just wondered if we could ask how many Friends groups were there before COVID and how many is there now, because there seems like a lot more.
The number of Friends groups we operate is fairly standard. Before COVID, we saw a lot of groups that were looking at single projects on sites and then would disappear once those projects have been completed. A lot of our groups nowadays are groups like the Friends of Woolscope, who see the park as a whole. And yes, we do try and do as much as we can as a team to support all these groups.
Do you want to come back on that, Julia?
I think what I'm asking is, it feels to me from a user of parks development that the team seems underfunded. So I guess what I'm asking is if there are going to be an increase in the number of friends groups, how can that continue if Parks Development is underfunded? It always feels like they need more staff. It never feels like there's enough of them. And that's just the way it is.
To other groups in the room, is there anything within that's shared? So particularly looking at those groups that have been going on for quite a few years now, is that a view that is that something you recognise in the group too? At the back there, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Hi, I'm Chris Bates and I'm part of the Friends of Abbey Street Park. And I must admit, I must back what Julie's just said. I feel that to say that we've got 3 staff, that covers parks and allotments, surely we should be looking at the allotments to be separate. I feel, and our group feels, that there's not enough people to help us. We, like a lot of the friends groups, we approach and call and reach out for help as and when it is absolutely impossible for us to do what we need to do. I feel that we walk a fine line in that we do a lot of work, but does that mean if we're not careful that we will be forgotten? And it's a case of, well, they'll deal with that. They deal with this, they deal with that. And I do believe we should have adequate resources, especially when you are relying on one phone call and that one person has not just got you as their park. And through no fault of the team, to us, they're brilliant. They work extremely hard. But when there is emergencies and you've only got one point of contact because you can't get anyone else, that's when the danger starts. And when we started 7 years ago, we were, at the time, we came on board listening to a park forum, which was brilliant. And it was going to do this, it was going to do that. And then suddenly it all disappeared. For the parks, I feel that we should have that level in place, that we have a forum that we can come together and discuss and then go forward. But I think the main thing is 3 staff to cover parks and allotments it's just not adequate.
Thank you. Are there any other group representatives who'd like to come in on this topic of staffing levels? Steve?
You hear me? I did write a few notes and I'll just read the last bit because I think this is more.
Steve, would you mind just introducing yourself and your park for
Sorry,
for everyone else in the room?
Steve Hill, and I'm the chair of Friends of Bernard Oakley Memorial Park. Okay. I'll read the last bit. Our help from Park Development and Dudley Parks is quite frankly spasmodic at best. We have never really discussed any roadmap for getting any of the work done. And when I emailed last week asking a question about the flooring of a path for our next project, was met with a reply of I haven't got time to do any more work with Bernard Oakley Park because I haven't completed everything for the playground yet, which we've just completed a replacement of a new playground for £53,000. This reply isn't the first time, so we are resigned to carry on the development of the park on our own and inform Ernest Stevens Trust when we have all the information available.
Thank you, Steve. Are there any other groups that'd like to come in on this or any other topic? Oh, I can see Ian's got his hand up online. Ian, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Really interesting already, isn't it? And so glad that we're having this discussion. I think nobody would be surprised if I started talking about budgets.
Ian, sorry, would you also be able to introduce yourself just before you get into the spiel?
Oh, apologies. My name's Ian Doyle. I'm the Waste and Street Scene lead at Dudley Council. I've been at Dudley since last December and working closely with the play development team and countryside services. We all work in the same team, and so I've been tackling various projects and problem areas with them. I do want to say one thing, that is that I've worked in a number of different councils, and I've never seen quite the volunteer presence that Dudley has anywhere else. Councillor Caulfield and I often remark upon the fact we have 600 volunteer litter pickers, for example. I've never seen anything like that. And the level of friends groups that we have, we should cherish and we should look after. But we do have the budget issue. Last year, the council was in serious financial distress, and a number of posts were taken out, and we continue to live in tough financial times. So that's very easy for me to say. It is true. I do think, having spoken to the director, Jim is there tonight, but having spoken to Jim, I think we need to be a little bit more creative in the way that we work in terms of support for that area, and try and make it look at ways to integrate the service with other services so that we can provide the level of support that we've just heard that people require. I think it's really important that we look at it that way. So yes, I can tell you there isn't a lot of money about, but you know that. What you're looking for me to do is how can we improve it? Already we've got 3 people saying there's not enough resource, I can't get the help that I need, and we think they're all great, but there's only 3 of them. Well, what can we do? How can we share that responsibility and achieve that flexibility across different service areas? And I think that's a challenge for us. I think we need to go away and think about how we can better serve people that are doing such great work for us on a voluntary basis. It's a massive resource, hugely appreciated in Dudley, but we need to look after it and support them. So my takeaway already is that we need to sit down in a darkened room and go, how can we do this better? What way can we use the resource we already have rather than asking for more, which is going to be difficult. So that's my point, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Could I ask, is there anything that the council currently do for your friends groups that you wish they didn't? So is there, we talk about capacity quite a lot. Is there something that the council does that you'd rather do yourselves? Julia?
When I came to this meeting, I started thinking on the journey, what does it feel like to be a member of the friends group and how I would describe it? And I kept coming up with the same image in my head, which is the sketch with John Cleese and Ronnie Corbett, where we are upper class, which is you, the council, and then whoever is middle class. But we are by far, the friends group, we are lower class and we know our place. So it's, I think that's really damning, isn't it, that I feel like that? And it's really sad that I feel like I'm on the bottom echelons of everything. I think in some ways I feel like that because we have to work really hard to do basic things. And then what happens is we apply for funding and we get funding, and we then the council turns up. And I think when you ask what does the council do that I don't like, well, it waits until I've got a bit of money in my pocket, and then it turns up like it's in the upper class echelons, and then starts bossing me around, and I don't like that.
Yes, so as local authority, as the management team, how can we change that view? Because it's important that we change that view rather than lose the friends.
So what I'm saying is you need to change the attitude where you're working on a higher platform as paid individuals or elected members to people that volunteer. You need to break down those barriers in some ways. And the way I've suggested that you need to do that is to offer us more support. We need to see people from Parks Development more regularly. If we invite people to meetings, people need to come. We have 9 local councillors that look after Woolscope Park, where I'm from, and we occasionally see one councillor, but there's 9 elected bodies that could turn up, but they never do, or very rarely.
Any other groups want to? I will. Sorry, I didn't see you there, Heather. Would you like to go now?
Thank you very much. I've been a member of the Friends Group of Mary Stevens Park since 2002. And we've done all sorts of activities from then. And we've always had help from the council members in everything we've done. They've helped us through Heritage Lottery, grant applications, all sorts of things. But I'm also on the Ernest Stevens Management Trust Committee. Now, at the moment, this meeting has been held. You have 900 hectares, it's stated, of maintained land, and you have 38 formal parks. But not once has the trust land been talked about in any way, shape or form. A lot of the parks are held in trust by the council. The council don't own them. They look after the parks. They're supposed to maintain them, a lot of them in perpetuity. We have open land that is also trust land. It's designated land, specie land. It's been given for a special purpose by a donor. But not once tonight have I heard anything mentioned, or even in the agenda that I was given, about trust land. And I'd like to know why that is, please, because to me, it's very important that each chair of the Friends Group, if they are dealing with trust land, have a copy of that governing document, albeit a deed of gift, a conveyance, an article, whatever it is, because they're a legal document, so that, yes, it's in old-fashioned writing, perhaps, maybe difficult to read, but it forms the basis of that particular land that you're dealing with and might help in, with the public to get them interested in it, for one thing. But I would like to know why no mention has been made in any of the presentations or the presentation verbally tonight of trust land, please.
Thank you. I will let officers answer if they wish to, but what I would say is when we're outlining the scope for this meeting, one of the things we discussed was keeping the agenda deliberately light, because what we felt was important was hearing representations from members of the Friends groups rather than officers talking at Friends groups. So I recognise there's a difference. I think we worked on the basis that so would the Friends groups who were coming to the meeting. But if there's any, okay, thank you. But that's not to dismiss the concerns. And I think your comments about making sure the deed and relevant documents are given to Friends groups, I think that's absolutely important. And we know from the Ernest Stevens Trust Committee how much of a challenge that can be. I don't mean that to be dismissive of it, just that this was meant to be deliberately light so we could focus on discussion. Yes.
It's not coming on. Oh, it is now. Maybe so, keeping it light, but there was no reason why you couldn't have mentioned that some of the parks are held in trust, because the public, everybody here probably is a beneficiary of these parks. And it's quite an important issue. They're there for time, forever. And I think that some mention should have been made somewhere in either the presentation or certainly the agenda of trust lands or trust parks. They're very important parks. A lot of the members of the public, if I walk through Mary Stevens Park, they're always talking to me about it. So it is part of the park. It's something you can't dismiss, and it'll be there forever. The council have to maintain them, these trust lands, usually forever. But they hold them, they don't own them. They hold them on behalf of the public beneficiaries. That's all I'll say at the moment, because I think you've got other tracks to go along. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from? Yes, Kerry.
Councillor Kerry Lewis, Friends of Worsley Park, also chairperson of Friends of Worsley Park. The Friends groups, was it 34 groups? Is that 34 active groups? Because I've looked around the room tonight and obviously we've only got a few groups here.
They are not all active all at once. There's probably half of those that are active at one particular time. I say some groups will come, they'll come to us for help with a project. You might be working on something in the background, and then you'll come to us for support that way. So I said that does fluctuate, but yeah, I appreciate some of the comments this evening about capacity.
Thank you. Also, is there any kind of, I know we spoke about like a forum, a parks forum and coming together. Is there anything anywhere, or could we develop something where we could get more volunteers to come into our groups instead of the groups fighting tooth and nail to get volunteers into sport?
We did recently hold a workshop with Dudley CVS to get their support and to guide friends groups into how to recruit volunteers, retain them, and how to use them in the future. And we'll continue working with Dudley CVS for that purpose. I'm also keen that we do try and establish a borough-wide friends group or body that come together. Again, it is just capacity to try and deliver that. But yeah, it's something that myself and the team want to take forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Julia.
As the chair of a friends group committee, one of the hardest things we have to do is make sure all the volunteers that come to us are safe, which involves that we have to understand the complexities of risk assessments in quite a lot of detail. Every activity that Friends Group undertakes should be accompanied by a risk assessment. Recently, myself and another member, Mr. Troon, who's with me now, took ourselves off to a training course that was organised in Warsaw, which were offering free training for people to complete a package on how to complete risk assessments. And there are other members from other representatives from other councils. So Wychavon Council had a member of staff there from their parks team, and there was a member of staff from Walsall team, and they were flabbergasted that nobody from Dudley Council had accompanied us to the risk assessment training that was available free. I mean, I think they were mightily impressed that we'd taken time out to try and train ourselves up. But these type of free training schemes, when you talk about not having any money and working efficiently, you need to be on the case with these types of things. You've got 36 groups that all need to be able to write risk assessments. And if you're missing things like that, then you're missing a trick that other councils are onto.
Thank you, Julia. I think that's probably one for officers to take away, if that's okay. Brilliant.
Yeah, we'll take that back.
Thank you. Yeah.
And just, and I don't know if this is probably hearsay, but we've managed to achieve community green flag status, which means that we are invited to the Green Flag Award ceremony. At one such ceremony, I was approached by someone from another that was in charge, I think Walsall Council again, and they said that it was a shame that they hadn't seen anybody from Dudley Parks Development, because apparently there's a Parks Development Forum that was set up, and it was actually created by Dudley Council. But I think members of Dudley Council are now too busy to attend. And it just seemed like a crying shame. I don't know if Daniel's aware of that. I think one of his predecessors actually established that.
Thank you, Julia. Would you like to come in on that, Daniel? Or Jim? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Julia. Is there anyone else from the Friends groups who have any questions or comments? Yes, Jim from the Salt Wells.
Hello, I'm Les Drinkwater. I'm a representative of the Friends of Salt Wells Nature Reserve. We work very well with the wardens at the Nature Reserve, but the staffing levels have continued to decrease over the last 5 years, and we're increasingly finding that we are the last people to hear about things. If there's funding available, it seems that we are the last person in the email chain to receive the information, leaving us a very, very short time to complete an application. It seems that we're always being last to be told, and it would be nice to be sort of more included by the officers of the council in the sort of things are available. The training, for example. Our organisation, we make sure that all of our committee members are DBS checked. We also have all of our members of the committee who are first aid trained. We pay for that ourselves. We have not received a single penny of funding from Dudley Council in order to train our members. I'd like a bit more support, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from Friends groups? Julia?
Sorry, I'm dominating this, but I have to echo what Les has said. We've actually had to pay for our group to go to Salt Wells, to the training sessions Les is organising, so our group can be first aid trained, which is it just seems like a bizarre situation. We're training ourselves to do a role which feels like we're almost the linchpin of every application for funding that comes into parks, and yet we're responsible for training ourselves, risk managing ourselves, all sorts of things with very little appreciation.
Thank you, Julia. Can I ask, is that a shared experience across other Friends groups as well, where you're being asked to foot the bill for being expected to do those kinds of trainings, but then footing the bill for yourselves? Yes, at the back there.
I'm Chris Bate, Abbey Street. I'm just trying to remember what we had to pay for ourselves. I think it was the Dudley Architect. We've got an area at the very top of our park, which we call our paddock. And we're concentrating now on that to create pathways, wildflowers, wildlife, to bring it back. And we asked if we could have an architect that could come along and give us a quote in readiness for us to put forward any plans, wherever the plans were to go. And we were told it was either there is not one available, or it's going to take so long before anyone will come. We ended up paying over £400 ourselves from our account for an architect to come in and do the plans for us. Now, we were absolutely flabbergasted. We don't ask for a lot. We do a lot ourselves, which I know all the other Friends groups do, no matter whether they're parks, who they are. They do a lot. The Friends groups in Dudley do a lot of work on their own. But we were absolutely flabbergasted that we had to find, I think in actual fact, I think it was £480. And it's like, why? At least could we not have had a little bit of help towards it? There was nothing offered. Sorry, it's going to take too long, or the architect is no longer here. If you want it, go ahead and do it. So yeah, I agree with Julie and what the other gentleman has said. I do feel along the way we are doing above and beyond what we are as volunteers on our parks.
Thank you. And the lady from Saltwells again, I think.
June McAuliffe, Executive Committee, Saltwells Nature Reserve. Last year, when we were applying for the King's Award, we were encouraged to calculate our volunteer hours and then to extrapolate that out into a financial. We understand that we are appreciated, but we add value. Saltwells Nature Reserve is one of the groups, and a very conservative estimate of our volunteer hours comes in just under £22,000 per annum. Now, when we talk about appreciation, if we add a value to that appreciation, maybe we should be taken a little bit more seriously where we're feeling undervalued. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
I didn't work out the amount that we've, but we as a group, with all the help that we have worked out to be about 700 volunteer hours every year as one group. So I don't know what how much per hour you worked, but we do 700 hours. And with all the people that help us on a work party as well.
If I could answer that, we estimated, and it's an underestimation of our time, we estimated it was over 650 hours that were put in by members of the Friends of Saltwells Nature Reserve last year, and excluded non-members of the Nature Reserve who volunteer on other days of the week, but a similar sort of figure of over 600, so close to yours.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Councillor Caulfield to come in on that point, and I'll go to you, Julia, if that's okay.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Damien Caulfield, and I'm the Cabinet Member for Neighbourhoods. Before May, I was Cabinet Member for Highways and Environmental Services. So you guys have fallen under my responsibility now for a few years. I just want to reassure you guys that you are valued by me as a Cabinet Member, and you certainly are valued by the Dudley Council as a whole. We all know the financial situation not only Dudley's been in, but many councils across the country. And obviously, I don't want you guys to, it's upsetting for me to hear that you guys don't feel valued, and I don't want the financial element really to implement that too much any more than what we can interact with. Obviously, you've heard from the officers tonight, you've heard from Ian Doyle. We meet regularly. And the way that we go about funding now from the external process has been very positive. And, you know, being known to really speak from the off as a person, I've held back a few minutes just to listen to your guys, the questions that you brought forward and your concerns. And I think certainly to bring on board now a forum so we can discuss this in more depth, Jim, I think would be key. I think there's probably lots of issues and problems that you guys are suffering, you know, that we could speak about in more depth. I don't recall any of the groups inviting me directly to anything that you're doing, but you've got my support 110%. So if you certainly need me, then I'll be there. Certainly, I'm sure Daniel and I have been out there, and certainly Mark and I have been out to other different projects that we've done across the council as well over the last couple of years or more. So I'm quite happy to do that and quite happy to support you and see what we can do going forward, see what projects you guys have got, see what your aspirations are, and then see what we can do then going forward to achieve those aspirations. Because it's key to me, you know, that I support you as a Cabinet Member and give you that support going forward. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Caulfield. Julia.
Well, I used to attend the Ernest Stevens Trust meetings, and annually you get to see the financial reports. And one of the headings within the financial report on Woollerscope Park is the value of volunteer hours. And you'll find that the figure that it repeatedly said is 0. And the number of volunteer hours that we calculated for Woollerscope Park was in excess of 5,000. So to be described as contributing 0 is like a smack in the teeth. I actually raised this issue with my local councillor, who's subsequently no longer the councillor, and I think he has raised this matter with the Ernest Stevens Trust. Surely, if we are trying to apply for funding for parks, then it is in our vested interest to know how much the value of the volunteer hours are, because that surely is a way of strengthening any application for funding, that if you've got a strong volunteer base within that area, then that it demonstrates that there's a strength of feeling from the local community, and there's a lot of people that feel passionately about the place. And to be described as contributing 0 was frankly, mortifying. I can read. So I can look down. If I'm invited to meetings, I can check what's in agendas and I can see figures. We're back to the, we're on the lower echelons again, but I can read.
Councillor Griffin, am I okay to leave that one with you to take to, I know we're both on the committee, but to put it on the, is that okay? Brilliant, thank you. Thank you. Sorry, thank you. Yeah, that is Councillor Sahota, who I'm not meant to allow to speak as you're online, but as an exception, Councillor, I'll allow you.
Thank you, Chair. I am just pretty sort of mortified in terms of the feedback we're getting from very valued people who do a lot of good work for the council in the parks. Obviously I've worked previously as an officer with Friends Group, and I just feel, from what I've heard, is quite concerning for the council. And this issue really needs to be addressed in terms of the need to sort of do some bridge building with the Friends Group, the valuable work they provide in terms of valuing the work they do. Also, I think it's about mutual respect. And I think it's I think a lot of I've already put some stuff on the chat. It's the volunteer hours and the hours that they contribute actually is helping to deliver and balance some of the funding shortfalls of the council, because these people do a lot of work there that would have been done by paid council officers. So I think that is essential. And I think from what I've heard there, and hopefully obviously Ian and Jim and Daniel will take this back, because it's not very good in terms of what we're hearing. These are the people who are basically, we've asked them to sort of, you have to remember that what they're looking after is actually public owned green spaces. It's not private. So they are doing a lot of hard work there on behalf of the council and the taxpayers. And I think the way, from the feedback we're getting from them, is they don't feel valued, and this really needs to be addressed going forward in light of all this new way of working with partners. I think hopefully we can get this sorted. And I think a good exercise for Jim and Daniel would be to actually work out exactly how many hours these Friends groups have contributed in the last 12-18 months, because that will in a sense show that they are being undervalued. And we need to address this going forward, because when these groups and the council want to secure funding from external sources, whether it's lottery or heritage, the key requirement of any funding they release is volunteer hours. And if we're not valuing this, then I think we're not doing ourselves justice, but we're not doing these volunteers justice. And I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to have a say, because obviously I couldn't make it because I wasn't well, and I didn't want to give anybody else bugs. But I think we do need to take this on and recognise this going forward, as I put in the chat about a forum set up, regular dialogue with his Friends Group, to listen to them, have two-way dialogue, because only if we can address these concerns that we can move forward, which will benefit both the council but also these hard-working volunteers who are doing a sterling job for our communities and parks and green spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sahota, and we all hope that you feel better soon as well. I'm going to come to Ian Doyle, and then we're going to move on to asking members to ask questions of the Friends Group and the officers.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry to come in again. I'm not surprised, unfortunately, to hear some of the comments that have been made. We know the service has been stripped to the bare bone. We know the council's in significant financial, or has been in significant financial distress, as I mentioned earlier. That being said, I always look to work with people. One of the things I've struggled with councils over the years is that we talk down to groups and we don't involve them in the discussion and decision making process. And I think that's the most concerning thing for me. I definitely want to change that, and I know that Dan and Mark will be right behind that, because there's some very smart people sitting in that room there tonight that know what they're doing and support us. And actually, we'd be mad not we grab the labour, but actually we need to work with the intelligence and the thoughts and views of people. And so I think, for me, whilst there is a financial challenge, we can do something about that, and we should do something about that. So I'm certainly, that's a big takeaway for me, even though I know it's difficult for us financially. I know we've got to think about adults and social care and children and all the rest of it, and that's a massive thing for the council, very, very important. But we can have mutual respect, and we can treat people as equals, and we can involve them in the decision making process and also in the planning going forward. So for me, that's the big one. So yeah, I'll definitely commit to making a change on that. And I like the idea of a forum. We need to work out what we're trying to achieve from it. That's a deeper conversation. I do think we should do something about that. So I'll commit to making a change, and hopefully the Friends Groups will work with us on that. But the point's sunk in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bills, as you're here as both a councillor and a representative of Friends Groups.
I've been the secretary of Hurst Green Park since it was first brought together in 2012. I go out every Sunday morning doing my bit. We have volunteer doggy do bins, and people say your park is very clear. Well, that's because I'm daft enough to go out every Sunday morning and empty 17 bins. And Councillor Sahota, who is on the call, has been known to say, who knew doggy do weighed so heavy, because we have a trolley and we have to pull it. So, there you go. We had our AGM on Saturday, and we couldn't, I had a chat with the officers. What should I say when I get here? Number one was, please can we have more park development officers, because your development officers are gold dust, because they have all the knowledge of knowing where the money sits, what you can, what you can't do. And if we could just get more park development officers, I'm not going to name the one we have, but she's just wonderful. The other thing is hours. I thought it was very interesting, hours. I'm also the secretary of Hales Owen in Bloom. Just like you, when we put forward to have the King's Award, when I said to the people who came, I said 40,000 hours. They said, and the rest. So it's more, we aren't even talking about blooms, and yet just think how many hours we get from the blooms. Our biggest worry is the future, because look at our ages, we're all the same, aren't we? But it would appear the modern retirees want to go on holiday to Spain and not spend their times in the park every Sunday morning. But it is a huge worry. What's going to happen to us when our generation, I can't keep going on much longer, but it is a worry. So if we could just do more work on that, I'd be really pleased. And the last thing is, we did invite you to Hurst Green Park because you opened our cycle track. But can I just say, your visit did more good for the officers than anything else, because we felt as if we'd been taken notice of, even though we'd done it all ourselves. It was our idea, everything, but it was lovely to have a visit. And I think that's another thing we'd all like. We'd like to see visits on the patch, wouldn't we? Somebody come and see us on the patch.
Thank you, Councillor Bills. We're going to open it up now to councillors to ask questions of officers primarily, but bringing in representatives of the friend group as necessary. For those of you who are enjoying a scrutiny meeting for the first night tonight, the way scrutiny works in every local authority, you've got a selection of cross-party members here that's proportional based on the council. The idea is that we challenge and scrutinise, offer recommendations to the administration, but the members here themselves are not a decision-making body. What we do is gather recommendations that we pass up to the administration. So I just want to make that absolutely clear that when we come out of tonight's meeting with recommendations, I really hope we come out with a good list of recommendations. I don't want you to go away and think tomorrow all the problems are fixed and the streets will paved with godly gold. And that it is the first step. It will be passed to Cabinet, full council officers as of Cabinet members as appropriate. But it's an important first step, and I hope we can make a few of them tonight. I've got Councillor Edwards first, who's been waiting a while, and then Councillor Creed.
Thank you. Yeah. Just quickly going to follow on from what Hillary's just said, and obviously the support you had from Damien. I think looking at the park setup and you being so involved in Halzone and Bloom and stuff like that, you're also an experienced councillor, so you will know what route to go down to get certain members of the council there. Now, unless the other groups are blessed with a Kerry Lewis in their group, they might be completely unaware of the council setup and who to approach and how to approach people. So I think that tips the onus actually back on the officers and the cabinet members to ensure that they're approaching the parks with how things work from our aspect, as opposed to waiting to be approached from them. Does that make sense? I mean, if we're 20 years down the line of the Friends group and nobody's come up with the idea of setting up a borough-wide Friends forum, is, it's unbelievable, really. That should have been there all the way through. If we've got so many members that we want a pat on the back, and having a pat on the back's nice, but I don't even think you want the pat on the back. You just want the support because you're doing your parks because you love your community and you want to make it a better place. Quickly touching on what Ian Doyle just mentioned when he brings in adult social care and children's and stuff like that. We need to understand the importance of parks to adult social care and to children. So if we're limiting budgets just to adult social care, but not understanding actually that budget could be moved across in some way to help with the park situation, because if nobody's got parks, if kids ain't got parks, if adults ain't got parks, then what have they got to do? So how do we look at cross-funding with certain things from different pots? I know Mark said that a number of staff had been let go or been made redundant, and you were saying that they haven't been replaced yet. So is the yet a big yet, or is the plan to replace the members of staff?
So I lost 2 members of staff who've moved on to new jobs, and 1 retired. So with the one that was retired has been replaced recently, which left a vacancy for an assistant warden. Done a PCCB for 2 posts, which I've just got a little bit of financial information to put onto the PCCB tomorrow, and then I'll be sending that to the Pay Cost Control Board, and hopefully they'll approve it. But again, as it's been reiterated countless times today, the financial situation is what it is. So everything's looked at, as you probably know, really thoroughly.
Well, the support is there for me to replace those posts.
Okay, and then quickly, this is probably more a political question towards Damien. Everybody keeps mentioning the financial situation, but nobody really talks about the financial situation. So is the financial situation completely limiting any further investment in staff so these people have got support, or is there the opportunity to jiggle books about a bit and actually say, actually, we're going to listen to what's been said today by the people who are literally the experts, and going down the route of thinking, okay, do we need 10 more members of staff? What's plausible? What could be looked at? Or is it, this is what we're going to get, and this is just what it is?
Well, Councillor Edwards, as you know, all councils throughout the country have been suffering with financial difficulties over the last 12 months or more. tough decisions had to be made. And from those tough decisions and those savings, we've not only secured the council's funding for 12 months, but for 5 years. So, we can, as the council's finances continue to recover, then we can apply for extra staff to fill those roles. And obviously it's down to officers like Mark's just explained to you, that if he needs a new officer in a role there, then he fills out the application or the process to do that. And then obviously it doesn't go to a council agreement board, it goes to remind me, Jim, the pay cost control board, who'll then look at that role and the costings of that role then, and then obviously then make the decision whether it's needed or not. Within this case, we need to bolster the service that's provided. Mark needs an operative, and no doubt there'll be other officer roles that'll need to be filled as we go along, and we'll do that on a need to supply basis as we're going along. So it's we have got cost and funding restraints in place still, obviously, but if we need extra staff, then it's down to the separate officers of the different departments to bring that forward and get that role filled. So that shouldn't really hinder us too greatly.
Thank you. Councillor Bills.
Thank you. I just think we're missing a trick of how we work, because if I look at what I do, Hales Owen in Bloom works closely with neighbourhood services. Now, I know we pay the council to water our hanging baskets, we pay the council, we pay for all our plants and everything, but we still work in partnership. But I don't have that same relationship between neighbourhood services and the parks team. And I think we're missing a trick, because I think there's a place for the neighbourhood team to also think, oh, we've got a Bloom in it, we've got a park in it, and work like that, rather than the silo for the Bloom, the silo for the council, and the silo for the friends. At the moment, I think we could put things together to work better. And that's just, having seen how we can do it with Bloom, why can't we do it with the parks? Okay, that's my suggestion. Smarter working.
Thank you. And Councillor Creed, I'm very sorry I got the order wrong then.
I'd just like to ask the officers, we recognise 34 groups. Can you tell us over the past 12 months what help financially that you've given to these groups?
It's not financial support we provide, it's more officer time. So we work with friends groups to try and attract that funding. There's a lot of funding out there for groups to apply for, and we support those groups with funding applications to bring in that funding. So we've over the past couple of months, we've just done an application, or successful application and project with the Friends of Bernard Oakley, where we've brought in just under £50,000, and we've just developed the play area there. And I know my colleague from Bernard Oakley Friends Group mentioned that we're in the process at the moment of claiming that funding now we've delivered the project. Unfortunately for officers, the project doesn't end when the project's delivered on site. There's then a lot of work in the background still has to be done to make that claim and to ensure the council gets that grant in.
I'm thinking of these groups that do the council cover their insurance and this type of thing?
I think you got your answer from the Friends then, but Councillor Roberts.
Yeah, just coming back on Councillor Bills and Edward's point, in my last role with the organisation in Cosley, I organised walks, the wellbeing walks, and I think we're missing a trick here by working with the Friends groups. I know for a fact, working with the Silver Jubilee Friends group that are not here tonight, counting the health and wellbeing factors, the mental health successes. Public health, I believe, pay for the park activators on our parks at the moment. I think we're missing a trick by not approaching public health for some assistance along those routes with some of these friends groups, because the health benefit from it, from doing an half an hour walk, from getting involved in planting, even meeting with friends groups for a coffee and a biscuit. The advantages, reducing loneliness and isolation in the local community, and all that is free at the point of taken up by people who enter our parks across the borough.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Kettle, and then we'll go Julia and Heather. Did you have your hand up then as well? Okay, Councillor Kettle, Julia, Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Picking up some points of what we're talking about, there's an incredible social value here, and a community spirit within the groups is sometimes immense and very useful in a holistic way. And I looked at the budget when it's £1.5 million sounds a lot until you come down to 9,600 a week, and between 38 parks, it comes down to £223 a piece. And when we're dealing about 900 acres, hectares, sorry, we're talking about 2,223 acres. So it's marvellous what you can work out on a phone very quickly. And it gives you a perspective of where we are and how lucky we've been to have such an immense group of volunteers that have helped us in this way. Concerning the help and the growth of these groups, why don't we have a standard billboard or advert for friends groups on all the billboards, or all the in the libraries, all sorts of places we can use. And I think it wouldn't cost a lot. A billboard advertising the friends group, I don't think would be a bad idea. A few weeks ago, we had a street party. It was great in a way. Even got on the television, and it wasn't far from me. It was only just over the road. And when they came on to me and asked for guidance and help, they came back worried stiff that they'd been told they'd got no street scene insurance. And I said to the obviously concerned, why can't we offer a package? And I'll say again, where we're dealing with friends groups, why can't we offer them a template, giving them guidance and access to training as a standard item? Why isn't this in the system? Why haven't we been there already? Or have we? Daniel, have we or not? But I make the point before I finish, if I may. When we look at the figures, we've been remarkably lucky at how much has been done. I see Mrs. Marks's group, and I really value what they do in our community. And on a nice day, especially when the weather's right, they get quite a crowd, quite a large number of people, and it works as a social cohesive group, and it's very advantageous. So in real terms, £960 a week over the last 3 years was a bargain for us. And if we can find some more financial input, some help for these people, and offer them packages, a template of where they should and where they need to work, guidance, like with the street party, if we'd have offered a bit of guidance and taken away the worry of street liability insurance, just a simple thing, oh, we'll cover that for you, £15 covers you for 2 hours or whatever. Get it out the way and let these things happen without too much worry on the individual raising these groups, and with the inspiration to work with communities. Let's try and help them a bit more. That's my comment.
Thank you. I'm just going to check in. Is that within the realms of possibility? A question probably for you, Dan.
Chair, we do have a standard information pack that we send out to all friends groups when they initially want to set up. A lot of the groups in the room this evening are well established. and probably haven't seen that pack because it was only developed about 3 or 4 years ago. I take on board the comment from setting up and establishing a borough-wide group. I think that's a really positive idea and something that I would like to take forward, because a lot of these friends groups have skills that they could pass on to other groups and knowledge that we can share, and that's the resource that we can pull in without a lot of additional support or resource from the council.
Thank you. Julia?
Yeah, I really, what Councillor Roberts has said really rang true with me, and it made me remember that I'd volunteered with, is it called Public Health in the past? And there is a differential between volunteering with public health and volunteering with a friends group. And that's another reason where you feel sometimes that you're not being treated maybe fairly. What I would say is that there was an annual, when you volunteered with public health, you saw the officers much more frequently. There seemed to be more support available, and there was an annual celebration of what we did within public health, and that's pretty much non-existent within the friends group. There was some movement for it to be a little bit better this year, but it doesn't feel like you're recognised in the same way as people volunteering with other things, which feels wrong.
Thank you, Julia. I've got Heather, then Councillor Stanley, then Mark and Steve.
Me.
Yes.
At Mary Stevens Park in the Healthy Hub, I think Daniel Files might have this, because I can't remember really, but I think the rangers aren't paid by the council. I think they're paid by the PCC. So they help with a lot of activities for well-being, Pilates and walks for mums and toddlers and all different sorts of groups. So that could be perhaps groups like that, rangers, with 50-50 with the PCC could help in other parks. And I think you need to get in touch with the rangers at Mary Stevens Park and find out more about it, because they do an awful lot of activities there. Thank you.
Thank you. So, okay, just to take on board. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Councillor Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've listened very carefully to what's been said in the chamber tonight over various things. One thing has come out quite clear, hasn't it? And that's appreciation we should be showing to all the volunteers. When you look at the borough itself, the amount of money this borough saves through volunteering, not only in parks, but in other spheres of running this authority, it's absolutely billions of pounds we actually save in that respect. Coming back to showing appreciation, going back to the days of Mr. Weston and various other officers, we used to have an annual evening down at Woolscott for a presentation evening to show our appreciation of authority for what the parks teams do for us, and the volunteers in particular. There's two ladies present in this room at the back there that have transformed a piece of land in Gornal from what it was to what it is today, very passionately. They have got a big problem, and that is with antisocial behaviour. And this is where they're struggling an awful lot. I'm the chairman currently of the Friends of Sedgley Beacon. We've just secured a certain amount of funding to start some work up there with a 10-year management plan that we started probably 12, 13 years ago. But at least we started to make steady progress. But I think you do need to show appreciation to what the volunteers do. The situation on a large piece of land, very well, in the back garden where I live, is Cotwell End Valley. It's been sadly neglected for year after year without any work being done. Now, one of the biggest problems I have is people complain to me, it'd be nice to have a walk around if we could get on there. The maintenance of the paths is absolutely diabolical. I've had trees fall over there, and I've tried and tried and tried to get people interested in getting it cleaned up. There's been no interest shown in that piece of land. And what I'm leading up to now is we need to look at the borough, as a borough, look and identify all these parks, all these pieces of land, get them down and see what we can do with a management plan to put the things right that we should have been doing, but we haven't done. I'm going to finish at that.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. I think that's a question for either Councillor Caulfield or Daniel. Is there a management plan for each park within the borough?
No, not all sites have a management plan. We do try and develop wish lists with groups, so we try and look at their aspirations and put them down in sort of like a shopping list. But not all sites have got a management plan.
Thank you. I've got Mike Troon and then Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Mike Troon, Friends of Woolscote, Treasurer. I too used to do a lot of work for public health, voluntary work, and for instance, their first aid courses were provided for us. Okay, so why can't Dudley get together with all the volunteer groups and make sure that they organise courses? They can probably get them at a lower rate anyway than we as Friends group have to pay for. Also, with the public liability insurance, then it should be perhaps if Dudley tell all these 38 groups what our minimum should be with public liability, and they organise it through a company to save me as treasurer going through many hours of going to different companies. If it's something done through Dudley, then surely that would get a better rate for the Friends groups as a whole.
Thank you. Steve.
Yeah, I'll go back to the public health. Our next project is a walking path, which is over 400 metres long. So it's round the perimeter of the park. So I mean that, you know, if public health can help us get that done, that'll help with people's health, mental health. So, you know, if we can sort of, I think Hillary, Councillor Bills, pointed to it and said, you know, why can't all the groups work together a bit closer than they are, instead of everything going through parks, if other groups could get involved as well. And they're all quite welcome to come to our meetings, all of them, including Councillor Caulfield.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Roberts, Julia, and then Hunting Tree Park. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Thanks, Chair. In direct response to your comment there, Steve, when I worked on Silver Jubilee Park with the park activators, we did the walk leader training, which is free training. And then if the walk leaders do that training, it's half a day. And then they do risk management. And I actually wrote some of the original risk management for the Park Leaders Walk. And after doing that, the walk leaders are covered by the Ramblers Association for insurance. So check through the park activators and the public health for that.
Thank you. Did I say Julia next? I did, didn't I? And then...
With regard to funding application and management plans for the park, there has been times when it has felt that I, as a member of the public, have been applying for funding for a park on the basis of no clear management plan for Woolscote. Situation has improved, but I found it bizarre at the time as holding a position of trust within the NHS that I could just be whizzing up a scheme for Woolscote Park on the basis of maybe 20 volunteers coming to a meeting without the council really giving us any guidance or support. And that is exactly how it's been, that I've been sitting in my bedroom applying for funding. I suspect that other groups that have councillors leading them with CLLR get preferential treatment to myself because I'm just a member of the public. that might not be true, but it feels like they have access to resources that I don't have. So it's just the way it feels.
To representatives from Hunting Tree Park and then Kerry.
Thank you. I'm Jane, I'm the Secretary for the Friends of Hunting Tree Park. I'd like to pick on something that Councillor Roberts said about the activators and the healthy hubs. We're fortunate enough to have a healthy hub at Hunting Tree. However, our activators, well, I won't say what I really think, they're not particularly helpful. They'll lock up. I've seen them both walking from Halso in at the same time, having lunch at the same time. Organisation that I work for, that wouldn't happen. You split your lunch, you stagger it, so there's always somebody there. We've had to finish events early because we had our keys taken away from us and we've never been given them back, despite asking for them a lot of times, which would mean that we could do things when they weren't there. They'll end up having to go to another park, so the events at Hunting Tree or the things that are going on don't take place. We do have a wonderful knit and natter group that run there, but there've been times where you can't come because we're on holiday or somebody else can't help. And some of the ladies that attend that group don't see anybody else all week. They're widows. So what's that doing for them? Absolutely nothing. That's the only regular event that we have there, and we'll have to cancel it if the activators are either off sick, which obviously can't be helped. But when they're both granted leave at the same time, that's not good enough. They shouldn't be doing that. And, you know, if we've got an event on, which we don't have many a year, we're told, can you have it earlier? Because we've got to close up. We finish for the day, or we're not going to be in at that particular time. You know, for the mental health of the people that actually use it that we arrange for. I'm sorry, but it's not good enough. It's really not.
I ask Councillor Roberts to come in because he wants to speak on that point, and then I'll come to you, Councillor.
Yeah, can we straight back on that point? I'm really sorry to hear that as your experience. My experience of Silver Jubilee Park and the activators there, they were so proactive, it was unbelievable. And I wasn't a councillor at the time, so I had no privileges. I was a part-time paid worker for a local charity based in that area. And I think what probably needs to happen there is to raise those concerns through their boss, possibly, and use the Silver Jubilee Park activators as a model of good practice, because I found nothing but expertise and excellence in working with them. But I'm really sorry that those are your feelings. That you shouldn't have those feelings and experiences anywhere, and none of you should have those experiences. And if you do have those experiences, like tonight, you've raised them, and I've been writing down the concerns, and I'll summarise them at the end of the meeting. But nobody should experience that kind of attitude.
Thank you. Jim wants to come in on that point.
Yeah, I was going to say, park activators comes under myself and Councillor Corfield's portfolio, so we'll both take that back.
Brilliant. Thank you. Kerry.
Sorry, I just wanted to come in about the funding. I do find it difficult. There's always a fight to get funding, as you know, Daniel. I will be emailing you going, I'm stuck on this, I'm stuck on that. You know, I've been on a funding application for 3 to 4 months and having CLLR before my name. No, I don't get treated any different. We're a friends group. We work together. Yeah, so yeah, just a bit of a annoyed comment. And I just want to make a comment as well about feeling undervalued. That's how some people feel in this room. As a friends group, as friends of Worsley Park, we're a good group. We keep each other going. We're there for each other. We're there for the community. We're there for the park. We just get our hands dirty and we're there to do what needs to be done. And that's it, you know. So can I just go off on one as well? With outside agencies like the police and our antisocial behaviour team, is there some way, if we do a forum, that we can bring them into that forum? So, you know, when we've got, when we are dealing with issues with antisocial behaviour and police issues, that they know what's going on around in our parks. Is that something that you could add to that? Is that okay? Thank you.
You may.
Just to say that every ward now has a dedicated police constable. So guess what? I know it's very busy. I can't talk for Huntingtree. I don't know who yours is because you're in Hayley Green, aren't you? But you will have a dedicated police constable.
We reported a massive issue of antisocial behaviour the other week. We have quad bikes all over the place. I sent them videos. I even told them where the quad bikes were being kept, and they closed it because they turned up once and nothing was there. We gave them the location of where the quad bikes were being stored, and nothing, absolutely nothing that came back from it.
I'm just going to come in on that point because we have a huge issue with off-road bikes in my ward, so it's more as a point of information. We've had a constant issue in my ward about whether or not the advice is to call 999 or 101, 111, which one? Thank you. Thank you. 101 or 999, with 999 being the correct number to call if they are there. And I think it's important that friends groups know that. The challenge that we've had is you get through to an operator and they tell you this isn't an emergency, call 101. This has become widespread, and I don't know if we're stretching the remits of this committee by doing some kind of recommendation to write to someone, but I think that's for us to figure out, because that's becoming too common a problem that's stopping justice for what's a huge issue in our borough.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a bowling green up at Huntingtree that myself and Alan are the leaseholders for it because the council didn't want to look after it anymore. So we do that ourselves. We'll have groups and groups of kids. If anybody's been past Huntingtree on a night, especially in the summer, it's full of kids, which is great, but then they go and climb over. We've had bikes in the bowling green. We've had dogs in the bowling green. And you phone the police and say, well, they're trespassing. I've actually refused to go up there anymore. I live down the road because of my own safety. And again, you know, nothing gets done about that. We said, can we put anti-vandal paint on the fence? We've been told, no, we can't, even if we pay for it. I'd pay for it, but we've been told we can't do that. You know, so I think, as Kerry has said, if we can have a representative from the police, if we do have a forum, it's got to be a good way forwards.
Thank you. I'm going to get Councillor, I know you've been waiting a long time, Morris. It's on that point, so I'm going to get Councillor Caulfield and then. Okay, right. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. It was nice to see you both. Councillor Caulfield.
Chair, yeah, just to touch on a few points, and I can touch on the point of ASB as well. You know, just to touch on the point of the lady's comment about councillors' wards getting priority. Well, if we can tell my residents in Sedgley that I'm the cabinet member and I haven't got any priority at all. So, and surely, you know, I'm sure Daniel will share with me that I've been driving him mad now for the last 4 years. You know, certainly to get parks in Sedgley up to a certain standard. So that's not the case. Another reassurance really I can give you now, and obviously councillors will know that we've gone through a new overall operating model now. So a new senior management down operating model that's just been put in place. Jim's our newly appointed director. Jim's worked for Dudley Council for 40 years, and what he doesn't know about Dudley isn't worth knowing. He's got a vast amount of experience in his field. So Jim and I now, and the officers are working very closely. You know, and as I've already said, it upsets me to feel that you guys, you know, don't feel that you know that you're treasured in the roles that you do, because you are. And as Ian Doyle had mentioned earlier on, you know, we've got 34 friends groups. We've got over 600 other volunteers as well that do various roles throughout the borough. So for me as the cabinet member, you are valued, and I can give you assurance now that Jim and I will go away. We've already been discussing it, Jim and I and Ian in the background, what we can do for you going forward now, and obviously work with the processes that we've got in place, but obviously new things now. And I think the forum is going to be key going forward. You know, I've listened to lots of your concerns tonight and wrote down as many as I possibly can. But I think if we have that joined up partnership, as others have mentioned as well, that'll be key. You know, and if any of you guys from any of your parks need me to be there, and Councillor Bills did say that I did visit, I visited the park that they were working on. What I don't want to be looked at as a cabinet member is give you the support, but not that I look like I'm taking the glory for it. because I do look on social media sometimes, and lots of people say he's here again having his photograph taken. Well, you know, I'm there to support you guys. It's not for me at all. You know, it's an honour for me to be the cabinet member that, you know, with this role and be a councillor. I don't want to do that, but I'm certainly here, you know, to help you guys go forward with your groups and support the work you're doing. But I am mindful, as I think as Councillor Bill said, you know, it made a great difference to them over there, but I do get lots of negativity thrown as well. The ASB side now is also under mine and Jim's portfolio. I've recently signed off 3 PSPOs, so public space protection orders, one of which is a vehicular one, so we can deal with the most minor ASB, which would be electric scooters, electric bikes, then off-road motorcycles, then right up to speeding vehicles, and then obviously the other 2 PSPOs deal with the other type of ASB problems as well. So that gives, what does that give us? That gives the council extra powers, and it gives the police extra powers. So our enforcement team can enforce where they couldn't before, and the council can enforce as well in different. The police, sorry, can enforce in different areas they couldn't do before. So that's a joined up partnership that should be positive when we get that in place now. That's out for consultation at the moment, and I'm hoping that those will be active by the start of November. So just a few things there, Chair, just to touch on.
Thank you very much. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, just to back up the claim that, well, the point that actually councillors don't get any preferential treatment. But what I would say is councillors, I'm going to praise Kerry again here. Kerry is an expert in both sides of her field. She's an expert in knowing what goes on in the council house, and she's an expert that knows what's going on in parks. And I would advise all parks, and I think this needs to come from the council, actually all the parks groups, to ensure their councillors are getting involved. Now, obviously, you can only take an ox to wear to kind of thing, but I think if we can look at creating a new pack that goes out to all the parks, that it tells Wollaston Park exactly who their councillors are, exactly who their MPs, what their contact details are, how they get in touch with them. We do the same with councillors, because councillors might not know parks exist, parks groups exist. I mean, in my ward, we're just in the process of setting up 2 parks groups. There ain't any parks groups. But again, we've got the councillor involvement in it. So I think it's, if we can get this pack together to, I know you said there was one 10 years ago set up, but if they've been a group for 20 years, they wouldn't have had it. We should be on top of ensuring they're up to date with exactly how things work now and who to contact. And there is always support from councillors. Now, in terms of the funding avenues, then yes, Kerry's completely right. Putting councillor on her bid to the National Lottery is going to make absolutely no odds whatsoever. But having your voice in this chamber is a massive thing. Now, Kerry's group has got a voice in this chamber. If your group ain't got a voice in this chamber, or a voice to Damien or to Hillary or to whatever, then there's always going to be a little bit of support. And if it comes into an officer, for instance, and you wrote an email to an officer and Councillor Lewis wrote an email to an officer, then unfortunately the way it works is Councillor Lewis' email is going to be seen by the officer. So let's get councillors into all the groups. And if they ain't doing the job, then let's give them a kick up the backside to make sure them doing the jobs. The other thing, and it should be non-political, but you should involve your politicians. All of your MPs will be saying they've got access to this funding. Well, let's find out if they have got access to so much funding, and let's go down the path of dragging them, saying, well, we need funding for this, we need fences, we need outlines of parks. There is different avenues. And then the one last thing I will say is, have all of you aware of the DCVS and stuff like that, and are you working with the Council for Voluntary Services? Because they will offer a similar service to what you will offer, but they'll have more time to do it. Does that make sense?
Julia.
I'm actually completely confused about what you just said. What do you mean, are we working with Dudley CVS? I don't understand. I've never used Dudley CVS to write any applications or to support us in that way. We have to just get on with it.
So again, the council should work with you to ensure that the CVS are, obviously it's the Council for Voluntary Services, you guys are a voluntary service, they will be able to give you advice in the same way as a general citizens, that the citizens' advice would give you, and they will be able to direct you in the right way. They will also have access to grants like from Central England and the Art of England and stuff like that. So working with the CVS will open a whole new door to you guys, and they will offer a second layer of support. I'm right in saying that, aren't I? So the CVS are there to support you guys, where maybe the council can't jump in all the time, but Dudley CVS can. So if we're going to hold this forum, maybe it's getting Dudley CVS involved as well. There seems to be lots of different organisations here that ain't been touching base with each other to offer the right support for the friends groups.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Yes, at the back there. Is it Chris? Yeah.
I've been listening very carefully, and one of the issues that's come up quite a lot, rightly so, is funding. Now, Councillor Bills was quite right in what she said. We must start thinking smarter. I guarantee you, without any of the friends groups here knowing that we've gone for exactly the same funding stream. So we are then diluting that stream for the other friends group. Part of the forum, or maybe a separate one, is why not get a process in place, think smarter, and look to what the groups are trying to get funding for, and rather than do a separate funding, bring that together as one funding application with the criteria and and what is needed to be put into that application from the groups that are on the same level of looking for it. Now, whether that would be a separate group, I don't know. But as we know, the non-charitable organisations, this window is getting smaller and smaller, and it's getting harder to get funding, the appropriate funding. But if you've got a working group that is working for the friends groups, bring that together. To me, that's a much smarter way of working.
I'm going to ask Councillor Roberts to come in on that.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Chris, yeah, I totally agree 100%. I've been a committed development worker for over 40 years, and that's the Holy Grail. However, the difficulty is you can't club everyone together because the funding stream might be specific for one indices of deprivation and not another. And some of the funding, so the funding that's coming through the borough now, the 20 million over 10 years, some areas are excluded from that because they don't fit that indices of deprivation or that criteria. So to be honest, you'd be chasing your tail trying to do that. I think what we have to do is try and help you guys through maybe CVS to explore possible funding opportunities and help you, rather than spending hours in your bedroom filling those application forms in, help you to fill them in or get you in front of the right people. I was involved in a £1 million project in Colsley over 10 years, and it's just as difficult to apply for £1,000 as it is £1 million. It's the same kind of process. So I think, yes, we do need to be smarter, but there are organisations out there who can punch in the right direction to apply for those fundings and setting up your aims and objectives and your managing bodies to reflect that. So when you're applying for funding, you're hitting their targets. It's a bit like applying for a job, isn't it? You repeat what they said in the job application with your application, and you're making it sound the best application out there. And unfortunately, it is a competitive tendering programme.
The one thing I must say, and this isn't being flippant, this is being completely honest and truthful. Some of the application forms we know we have to put in, we have to include costs from the council for installation. Can we please not have such high quotes come to us from the council? Because believe me or not, for us as volunteers, I mean, we did one project and we had to put nearly an extra £1,000 on because the cost of installation that came from the council.
You're looking at me like I can't come. Before we move on to a list of recommendations, are there any more comments from councillors to officers? Councillor Cobb.
This is more of a comment to you, Councillor Priest, sorry. I was just wondering if we could have an update at another meeting, like what has been done to have further discussions with the Friends group, because there's been a lot of really genuine concerns raised tonight. And I think it's really important to continue these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we'll do, Gemma, have you been making a note of when we've been told it'll be taken away? Pardon? Have you been making a note of when officers have said they'll take it away and come back to us? Yeah, brilliant. So what we'll do is any time that comment's been made, we'll make sure a future committee meeting, likely the next one, that we'll get an update and we'll make sure that's on the agenda. And we'll have we've got a long list of recommendations, many of which I think will include a follow-up built in within them. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Clinton, did I see you?
Yes, Chair. Right, you'll be glad there's been no rant tonight. May I just say something? Daniel, you'll know the situation with the hole in the ladies' toilets at Woollerscope Park. That was there for about 2 years. We all tried to get things done. Things don't get done very quick. Very stressful for the Friends group on the park. Obviously, is there any way we can speed up what comes in from your department down to the repairs team and able to update the Friends groups back instead of us constantly chasing all the time what's going on, what's going on, what's going on?
I'm aware that there were issues with the ladies' toilets down at Woollerscote, and we do need to look at how we liaise with corporate landlord services and the property team there to get better feedback from them so we can update yourselves and Friends groups as well.
It's all right. The main bugbearer here is that's obviously a covenanted land, and the buildings are obviously listed, and it says in the covenant that it's supposed to be maintained to certain standards and stuff. And obviously, it took nearly I think it was nearly 2 years to get the whole done in the scene. Is that right, Julia? Yeah. And
I think delivering projects full stop is painstaking. So you get money come in, and then our recent project was quite a small one. We only had £5,000 to spend. It took over a year for the council to spend £5,000. I was quite shocked about that.
so I think it's just like going back to the appreciation stuff. And another thing, now this is not aimed at your department at all, because it's probably every department in the council. Why does it take someone from the public or a councillor to suggest an idea for an officer to implement it when obviously most officers get paid a healthy salary? Can we not have a bit more innovation from the officers? That's not aimed at you guys personally. That's just generally across the council.
Thank you, Councillor Clinton. Have we got anything else from members before we move on to recommendations? Councillor Edwards, of course.
Just a quickie. Obviously, we had the reintroduction of the community forum grants this year, which is at a lower level, but there is every ward across the borough has now got a pot of 5,000, I think, for this year. So there should be money you can apply to your local community forums for. Just maybe a recommendation or something for Damien to have a think on. I think it will still be going ahead for next year, but how it's divvied up, because it's a bigger amount than the 120. There's 240, I think. Whether there's able to tap into the other 120, which was used for Christmas trees and whatever this year. Whether there's going to be extra money now in the pot for next year, and whether we can look at how we side for some of that off into the Friends of the Parks.
Yeah, I can't. I'm looking at Jim now to see whether actually community forums isn't Is community forum still under housing? Yeah, that isn't under, I don't think that's under our, under my portfolio as far as I know.
It falls under public health.
I'll just come in on that. It's right, and I don't think we'd expect you to know the details of it as a result of that, Councillor Caulfield, but I think that's another good example of how we need that kind of joint up working. So for example, is that pot of money in that pack that we send to new groups so that they know that there is some money there that groups can apply for help? I think that's a kind of a theme for tonight and probably another thing for, brilliant, thank you. Anything else from members? No? Brilliant, thank you. So there is one final bit of this agenda item, which is recommendations. For those, again, who have experienced a scrutiny meeting for the first time, members of this scrutiny committee can vote on these recommendations if it comes to a vote. I'm not expecting it necessarily, but if it does, if you're here as a representative of the Ernest Stevens Trust Committees, Trusts Committee, then you're not eligible to vote on these recommendations. Do you want to start your list? Gemma, get your pen ready.
I've been busy beavering away on your behalf while the meeting's been going on. I've got a list of recommendations. I'm sure Councillor Caulfield got some that are the same, but we'll add them as well. We'll start off with a forum, because I think that's the start of the process to establish a community-wide forum. And some of the tasks for that forum, the recommendations, if you like, is a forward plan of how to move forward, volunteers, how to recruit more volunteers, a roadmap for getting the work done, including the management plan for the parks, look at ways to integrate services and look at ways to be more creative with funding, such as involving the antisocial behaviour officers. Big need to break down barriers with the friends groups. We need more representation at the meetings. There was a recommendation for recognising the trusts and the work they do, and a copy of the deeds, where they're held, and the responsibility of those deeds. Back to establishing a borough-wide friends group. Assistance with admin tasks such as risk assessments. Look at the support from public health and recognise the importance of our parks and open spaces. Look at filling the vacancies or identifying the vacancies and filling those as soon as possible to make the team more widespread. To explore a package of training, insurance, funding and those kind of elements, such as first aid. Re-establish sending the pack to existing groups so that they're aware of what's been included in the last 3 years, and speed up the repairs and projects and keep the friends updated at every stage of those. Those are the recommendations that I've picked up from the room tonight. I don't know whether Councillor Caulfield has got any different to those.
No, I think you've touched every point there that I wrote down. So yeah, right. In the priority that I have, yeah, 100%.
And is there anything else from members that you're expecting to see in that list that isn't there?
Anything from the box?
Anything? Oh, Councillor Stack.
Yeah, I'll re-emphasise what I said earlier about the management plan for the whole of the borough. You know what I mean? So we know exactly where the land is, what status it falls under, what investment's being made and what investment it actually does need to put these things right. I've just come back very briefly again to Cotwell End Valley. It is UNESCO, it's a World Heritage Site and it's very badly managed. And the problem is that people want to use it, but they can't use it because they can't use the paths, especially certain times of the year after rain and stuff like that. So we do need to have a look at what needs to be invested in the assets we've got within this borough. We may not find all the money when we want it, but at least we know about it and we can point people in the right direction to achieve that. But when you've got land that I'm referring to now, which is UNESCO, World Heritage Site, something to be proud of in this borough. And then take, for example, in Sedgley, you've got the start of the limestone ridge there, coming through to Dudley, to Wrens Nest, what's been spoken about. That assets, geology, and we've got the finest keeper geology in the world. They give it all the assistance you actually need, but we do need long-term to preserve these sites to make it interesting as a visitor attraction to the borough itself. But to find some of them being so badly neglected and just being left just to get worse and worse and worse, we need to identify what needs to be done. Whether we'll ever find the money to do it is a different matter, but we do need to identify, sites of this nature, what I mean, that does lack investment.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. We've got that on the list now for Councillor Caulfield to take away. In terms of, again, for those new to this, recommendations is kind of an ambiguous word in scrutiny. We're recommending these things because we'd like people to go away and do them. We can also make formal recommendations to different bodies within the council. One of the things that's been very clear tonight for me is that nearly all the problems that friends groups face kind of fall into two categories, if you like. One is about attitude, one about whether or not we're treating friends groups as equals, or if or it seems actually that you feel that the council behaves as if it sits above friends groups, and that's something that really the cabinet member and officers and councillors will all have to work incredibly hard to try and fix that relationship. I think we've got a good way to start there with the forum, but actually some of that is just about the tone and setting expectations of what we do. But then there is a clear issue here as well around funding, around stretched officer capacity, and I think the general feeling, and certainly my feeling, is that we're very lucky to have such a dedicated team and such dedicated friends groups, but there's not nearly enough of either, and so I'd be interested to hear the thoughts of members of the committee on whether or not you think a formal recommendation to Cabinet on a staffing review working group on the Parks Department, starting at what best practice would look like, what's the very best that we can be, and then working backwards from there, because I feel as an authority we've probably started the other way around of what's the bare minimum we can afford. My initial feelings is that would be a body of scrutiny, but any comments from members would be appreciated. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, I'll just touch on quickly again what I did earlier. I think there needs to, exactly what you've just said, yes, there needs to be a body set up, and we need to actually put a recommendation forward to review the staffing issues there. I think we need to look at how we have a crossover between different funding avenues from within the council. So when we're mentioning adult social care and when we're mentioning children's, is the positive impact that parks are having on children's and adult social care. So let's look at what funding avenues there is there. And I know they're overstretched as well. So it ain't about saying, let's take all their resources. It's actually, how can you work better together to create something that can work for everybody? And I think listening to all the experts tonight, it seems weird. It's the first time it's happened in 20 years, but I think it's a step in the right direction. But yeah, I think putting forward a recommendation to review actually whether we can get more support into them guys and how that works will be the right thing to do.
Thank you. So just to be clear then, I think the recommendation is a cross-party working group involving friends groups on a future staffing structure, which would then come out with its own recommendations to Cabinet about the future staffing structure of the Parks Department. Is that agreed by members of the committee? Are there more? Oh, and the rest of the recommendations that Councillor Roberts read out, happy with those? Any challenge or any additional to make? Councillor Edwards? Yes, we did, yeah. Okay. Any final comments from members of the Friends groups? Anything that you don't think we've raised in recommendations that you were hoping to see? Chris?
I just realised listening to that, the one thing that I didn't mention for us as our friends group of Abbey, we also do rely heavily on the team from Street Care. And we're finding again the same situation, the staffing, that they cannot any longer come and support us in the same way as they have done on a regular basis. So for us, park team and street care is of the same level, to be fair.
Councillor Caulfield, do you want to come in on that, or do you want to carry on with members of the committee?
No, Chair, I think just to comment on that, I think the street scene teams and we'll look at are up to full capacity. There's no staffing issues in street scene at all. So you've still got the 5 area teams throughout the borough. So there shouldn't be an issue with that, Christine, I'm sure. If you have a specific time where you find an issue, then let me know. But obviously, you know, for our area, we've got Claire Green and we've got Sean Perry. So nobody's fed back any issues to me.
That is not the impression we've been given. To be fair, we have been told that there's been restrictions put in for the amount of time we ask for the grab bags to be taken. We can't come we can't come as regular anymore. Basically, you've done a lot for now and you're going to have to wait. No disrespect to Sean, to be fair to Sean, I do not know what we'd do without him. And that is,
I mean, they've got the scheduled work to do, so maybe it just be maybe a day that needs to be arranged between you guys and the street scene team to pick them up. But I'll take that up with Sean and Claire anyway and find out exactly what the issue was.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ian, did you want to come in on that as well?
Yeah, just briefly to follow on from Councillor Caulfield. Let's not make any bones about this. You've talked a lot about resources. We talked a lot about finances, and you know, I said at the beginning that we actually need to think about working smart and in a different way to try and not just use money as an excuse. But there is a limit. The reality is that I came in about 10 months ago, I think it was 10 or 11 months ago, and 10 posts were cut from street scene. Let's be really clear about that. Now, that is going to impact somewhere. That's going to make a difference. And that happened because the council was trying to make those financial savings and rescue itself from severe financial difficulty. So it's understandable. What we're trying to do now is actually work to different standards. We do not cut the grass as many times as we used to. We carry out a couple of weed treatments and we put the service back on a level footing. And as you quite rightly mentioned, people like Sean and Claire and that team, and a lot of street scene, they're very devoted people. They really care about their environment. And when I say to them, do 6 cuts, they say, oh, can we do 7? It's not right. But there is a limit to what you can do when you lose that many staff. And that pattern is pretty much the same across the whole council. I do think we do need to work smart, and we do need to be a little bit more flexible and innovative in the way that we work and not be so silo based. But the reality is there are less people than there used to be. So it is going to impact. My job is, and Jim's job and Councillor Caulfield's job is to do the best we can with what we've got to try and support our really valued friends and the people that do the volunteer work for us. So yeah, of course we'll try and do better than we've done before. Of course we'll take these recommendations on board, but we are facing that financial reality. So it's, yes, of course, try harder. Very concerned about some issues tonight, but we've got to work within the parameters that we have now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yes, the gentleman from the Saltwells.
A few points really. It would be nice if the title of the group was a little bit more than parks and a little bit more than friends of groups, because we've got a very diverse group of volunteers within the borough, as well as within the nature reserves and the sort of trust land, which I was not familiar with. The title of the group needs to be a bit broader. I think it should be sort of like friends of or other groups that have an interest in this thing, in this whole process. I would also like to take up that point now that many of the Friends groups actually put money back into the council. We do not take money from the council. We are putting money into the council. The Friends of Saltwells Nature Reserve have spent thousands of pounds investing in equipment and facilities within the nature reserve. We have not asked for a single penny from Dudley Council, and we do not need to. We are putting money into it in terms of our time, in terms of our finances, in terms of our efforts there. It isn't a financial issue for us. The finances are not really a big issue, apart from the staffing within the council, but that's a wider council thing. It's not for the Friends of to decide. What we want is access to information. We want access to information quickly. We want access to information that is accurate. We want to not keep on reinventing the wheel by continually reproducing a risk assessment that has been done by another Friends group for donkey's years. And all we need to do really is, to be honest, cut and paste a new one with the title on the top. We need information coming to us. We need information to be being shared. We need ideas to be being shared. We need best practice to be being shared. And we, Friends of Saltwells, are trying to do that by building relationships with other Friends groups. And I would like to see this forum take that forward.
I think that was a fantastic summary of what the forum needs to be. And I think actually what's going to be really important is if we set up this forum, I think it should be you guys who should decide the agenda. It's you guys who should decide what it's for. We can't continue this top-down behaviour of the council telling you what you need from your forum. So the agenda for the first forum should just be what do you need the agenda to be? And it continues in this vein of what do you need? How do we fix it? The expertise is there, the talent is there, the resource may well not be within the council, but the expertise to get around that resource problem, I'm sure, is out there. Councillor Edwards.
I think maybe what we need to do is put a time limit on, say, in 6 months, we completely recreate what we've done here today.
I agree.
So we can chase up and make sure so officers are well aware that in 6 months' time, we're going to be in here with the same people asking the same questions, ensuring that everything has been done rather than just thinking, yeah, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I think that's absolutely right. I suspect it's one that we leave as a recommendation for the next municipal year, considering the timings of that now. But what we'll do is when we have the agenda planning sessions, we'll have a look exactly at the dates for that, whether it makes sense being the last item of this municipal year, or we recommend that the next iteration of it do it next year. But we'll figure that out. But absolutely, I think you're right. I don't think this can wait any longer than that. Any other comments from anyone in the group, Juliet?
I will just say this meeting has been quite refreshing. I've been the chair of the group since 2018 and there's never been a meeting of this type. So I am taking a lot of positivity from what's said. I know I let a lot of things off my chest, but I do truly value everybody's time and this has never happened to me before. So I will say thank you for that.
Thank you, Julia. And just so you know, I'm sure it was it you who I spoke to and you told me how it's important that this meeting isn't come into a room, be given a custard cream and told thank you. Or is that, maybe that was a chair of another Friends group, but I think you're right. I think the council's very good at saying thank you, but not necessarily saying what do we need to do. So I hope this is the beginning of some change from Dudley. Councillor Roberts.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Echoing your points, Julia, I mean, do people in the room tonight from the Friends groups feel that you've been listened to in general? I mean, we could extend this meeting until 9 o'clock, but I want to go home as well. But do you think you've been listened to on the whole? And we need to give you some confidence that this will be followed up. This is only a start. It's not a new process. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. But I think, as Councillor Priest and Councillor Edwards have said, we need to start the ball rolling today and make a difference so that we're not in 12 months' time having the same. And in the next meeting, I would like to hear that we've covered and made some headway towards a lot of the recommendations being made tonight.
Brilliant. Well, with that, you look like you're, no, okay. I think that's the end of that agenda item. So just for the formalities to end the meeting, we move on to agenda item 6. There are no questions under council procedure 11.8, and there are no further agenda items. So I declare this meeting closed. Thank you all for attending, for your contributions to this meeting. If, as I said at the beginning, you do have any individual items of casework relating to the areas that you cover, please grab one of the relevant officers or a councillor that you recognise from your patch to get that reported. If not, have a safe journey home, and thank you very much.